Welcome to the Get Organized HQ podcast. I'm your host, Tasha Lawrence. Every week, we share practical strategies for less stress and more peace as we dive into all topics life and home organization. I'm so glad you're here for this week's episode. And today, I'm going to be joined by Carla from the Carla Project. Now, Carla shares all about decluttering your home and life so that you can have the things in your space that matter most to you. And I'm going to be chatting with her today about how she finds less stress and more peace in her day-to-day routine. And I think that a lot of you are really going to resonate with what she has to share. If you feel like some of the conventional wisdom out there isn't necessarily working for you, then definitely tune in and give a listen to what Carla has to share. Carla, thanks so much for taking some time to chat with us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love the Get Organized HQ universe.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we are glad to have you. I'll just start out the way we start most of these episodes. Can you just tell us, what is it like to be Carla for a day?
You know, at this point in my life, I feel very lucky that I've created a life where I have a lot of flexibility and freedom. I've been self-employed for over a decade. So I do YouTube now as my main career. But even prior to that, I had an online business. So I've had one of these types of schedules where I don't have to necessarily wake up to an alarm. And my weeks are different every week. Sometimes I'm working on a Saturday and sometimes I'm off on a Tuesday. So that suits my personality and it suits my life. So it varies, but I like the variety and the flexibility.
Yeah. So can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think that sometimes we hear so many people, they talk about time blocking. They talk about having theme days is something that we've talked about even on this podcast. They talk about these very rigid approaches to time management. And for some people, that works great. But like you mentioned, that doesn't necessarily suit your personality as much. And I think that for the people who maybe hear about something like time blocking and think that just does not seem to vibe with just how I approach life. How can you embrace that and still know that you're being productive?
Yeah, that's a really great question. For me, well, one of the reasons why my life looks different day to day also is because I have a chronic pain condition. So I have chronic migraine. So there's a day where I feel amazing. Like today, I feel great. And a day like today, I can really hit the ground running and maximize my to-do list. And then there might be a day where I have an episode and that can last 24 hours. It can last 72 hours. And a day like that, I can't get off the couch sometimes. So I've tried a lot of these productivity methods like time blocking and having a really rigid schedule. And it didn't work for me. And also it kind of created some stress for me too. So the way that I think about it in terms of productivity is I have a running to-do list, like we all do, of things that either need to be done regularly or things that are project-based. And I just pick 1 to 3 things that I try to get done each day to knock off my to-do list. It's either business or personal. And as long as I'm getting that core main thing, the most important thing done, then that's good enough for me. But I can't follow very rigid, super structured things. I need a lot of space and range and flexibility for these kind of schedule type based productivity methods to work for me.
Yes. So how do you approach the days where you are just yep, today is not a day where I'm going to be able to get things done? I think whether it's chronic pain or chronic conditions, or even just things go off the rails sometimes. Even if it's not a health condition, there was an accident on the way home from work and it should have taken 15 minutes and it took an hour and everything is all off schedule. And it can be really frustrating. And I think it's easy to start feeling behind, just constantly behind. We're never getting enough done, always feeling guilty, always feeling like we should be doing more. And so how do you approach that to kind of combat that nagging guilt?
Yeah, I think that's it's so much mindset work, because even today, a day like today, I knew we had our call scheduled and I also have another call scheduled this afternoon, but I woke up to my dog being sick. And so I got an emergency vet appointment, which reshuffled everything for the day. I had to cancel an afternoon call. So I try to give myself grace and I give other people grace that life happens, things are in flux, and the guilt doesn't help my productivity. It doesn't help me do
Yes.
anything. And so I have to constantly be reminding myself, just even with worry, like I've been worrying this morning about my dog. And as we were walking this morning, I keep telling myself, worrying doesn't actually help or solve any of this, just like guilt doesn't help or solve any of this. So I just kind of try to calm myself down, kind of calms my nervous system down to just talk to myself and say, like, guilting yourself isn't going to help. If, it's okay.
Right.
Worrying isn't going to help. It's okay. And like, we're still all here. Everything still somehow is getting done. Everything
Yeah.
that needs to get done gets done.
Yes. And so much of that just comes back to not comparing to what you think other people are getting done. I mean, I don't even think we always know what other people are getting done or aren't getting done. Like most of us don't go around and post on Instagram, like, here's a list of everything I didn't get done today.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we think we're supposed to be getting so much done. And the other side of it is we don't give ourselves credit for all that we're actually getting done.
Actually.
I realize that a lot for myself, like on a day-to-day basis, sometimes a day where I have a pain episode that's like level 7, level 8. Even on those days, when I think about it, I still got up, I fed my dog, I let him out to use the bathroom, I answered some emails, I had a phone call, I made a doctor's appointment. It's like even on a bad day, we're still probably way more productive than we give ourselves credit for.
Mm-hmm. Right. And what you said about giving yourself grace and giving other people grace, like, I think the two are so connected that both the more we give ourselves grace, the easier it is to give other people grace. And the more we give other people grace, the easier it is to give ourselves grace. Like, I think they're just like, they both go up. Anytime either of them goes up, just having that compassion mindset. Like, if we are highly critical of ourselves, we are probably more likely to be highly critical of other people. Like, we're just in this mindset of like, well, everything should be productivity driven or everything should be this certain way. And trying to just let everyone have more breathing room.
Yes. Yeah. It's that famous quote. What is it? Like, don't shit on yourself, like the shoulds, because that is just it. It's not reality.
Yeah.
It's this ideal reality that we create. And it's kind of like, even, we're talking about morning routines. I had this ideal version of a morning routine, and a lot of it's based on social media. And I've even been guilty of creating this morning routine videos that show like, yes, I'm exercising and I'm doing my cleaning routine. And it's like, that's not every morning. A lot of times I don't even make my bed. Like I roll out of bed, throw on sweatsuits, I'm out the door, and I didn't even change at the end of the day's come,
I know. Like, let's all let everyone in on a little like YouTuber secret about morning routines. That first shot of them getting out of bed is not them getting out of bed. Like, they had to get up and set up the camera and like all of those things. Okay. Like, there was no camera there. Like, all of this. And it doesn't even, like, I watch those videos, to be perfectly honest. Like, I'm like, ooh, yeah, like, that's what I want my morning. Like, no shame for anyone who makes those or anyone who watches those. I have done both. But just realizing, like, it reminds me of like watching a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
You watch it and like, there's no gingerbread competition in my hometown, and I'm not gonna find some star-crossed lover and win the gingerbread making competition. But like, we still watch it as entertainment and as feel good. And there's like pieces of idealism in there that like you actually can like integrate like the small seeds of truth that are underneath that. And I think it's the same thing. Like whenever you're seeing social media, you're looking at something ideal. And so like, yeah, it's probably not going to look like having a perfectly coordinating outfit that you laid out the night before for you to go to the gym and do all of this. But like, maybe it does inspire you to get out of bed and go on a walk around the block.
Exactly. That's the thing. I think the idealized content that a lot of us consume on social media, the benefit of it is that it inspires you. Like if I watch someone do this curated morning routine and I see them put kale into their smoothie, that actually might remind me like, oh, you know what? That's actually something I'm going to get kale next time I go to the grocery store, and I'm going to add that to my, one little healthy habit. I might not be able to do the perfect thing that they filmed over probably 5 days. That's a morning routine, but I can add some small healthy habit in that makes me feel a little bit better. So it's the inspiration piece. That's really what
I totally agree. Yes. And so like, I just think if we can all reframe what we're watching as that, we're not trying to achieve that because it is produced. Just like a movie is produced. But inspiring us just like a movie is meant to inspire us.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect analogy.
Yeah, absolutely. So What are some of the things that you would say are really working for you right now? Like whether it be routines or just household tasks that you're like, I feel like I've got this down. I feel like this is something I could even like give someone else some tips on, like, this is running smoothly.
Yeah. I think right now what's working really well for me is doing mini challenges. And I don't know if it's because I'm an Aries, I don't know what it is, but I love if I give myself a challenge, like a 5-day challenge, a 10-day challenge, and I'll usually do it as like a morning thing. Like, okay, if I meditate for 10 days for 10 minutes, something like that, just to add, because I do really think I was thinking about this in the last month as I was starting to feel a little bit like too unscheduled and too much like a ship lost at sea. And I thought I need to have some anchors to my day. And I do feel better when I have a little bit of a routine. Like I have my natural routine, which is I absolutely get up and I walk every morning. And that's just ingrained in me. I've done it for decades. Even before I had my dog Samson, I always was someone who got up, went out the door and walked. I've always lived in very walkable parts of LA. So that's been like a natural morning thing for me, I think, for mental and physical well-being. But other things that I've been adding in, like, so that's automatic. Other things that are not autopilot, like the meditation, even journaling for 10 minutes, just these other things that when I do them, I feel better. I'll just challenge myself to do it for 5 days or 7 days and habit track it. Like I'll just leave the little bubbles in my journal and kind of track them off or on my notes app. And that helps me start like a new healthy habit for myself. And that seems to work really well for me. Just challenging myself, these little mini challenges.
Yeah, I think a lot of people may find themselves in what you were describing of a situation where your schedule does have a lot of flexibility. I mean, I feel like there's two extremes. There's either you work 9 to 5 or you work like like 12-hour shifts. A lot of people like in the medical field who they work 3 or 4 days a week and it's 12-hour days. And so they have no flex time. Like everything needs to be scheduled, or it's the opposite extreme. And it's like, everything is an option. Like I could go to the grocery store now, or I could go to the grocery store later. I could get up at 7. I could get up at 10. Like all of it is doable. And so how do you approach that? Like it's almost like analysis paralysis. You have so many options. Like how do you do anything?
Yeah. I think part of it is there are things that have to be scheduled. So I have that as an anchor. So I have deadlines. Like a lot of my work is deadline driven. So if I have a deadline, I'm going to meet it. And then I have certain scheduled events. And then I have the loved ones I take care of. Like I'm a caretaker for my elder dad. I'm a caretaker for my senior dog. I don't have kids. So that's like a whole other realm that I don't know how people manage, like children in huge homes. I have an apartment. So this is what my level of manageability looks like. But I basically have certain things anchored into my day. And then I follow my to-do list of like, what's the 1 to 3 top priorities that I can get done for today. And I feel like that's kind of, I was thinking like, if I were really in mastery mode, it would look like a solid morning routine, a solid evening routine, and then just 4 hours of focused work, whether I'm creating my content or editing or whatever needs to be done for my business. I think if I could master those 3 things, that would be the pinnacle for me, to really be like 4 hours of focused work. Cause I usually kind of squeeze in my work throughout the day whenever I can and based on deadlines. But if I were really on my A game, I would be phone off, just focused 4 hours. I'd write the book I keep talking about, and I would, do all of these things that I want to do. So I'm working towards that, but it's just, progress, not perfection kind of a thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit, like, what are the elements of a good morning routine for you?
Okay. When I feel my best and when I'm really taking great care of myself, it is waking up early for me, which is about 6:30 or 7. But I naturally wake up around that time. It's going outside and getting sunlight and going for my walk. It's making myself a breakfast that has protein. That's like important for me as I'm in my 40s. Doing some sort of spiritual time where I'm alone and just, even if it's 20 minutes of, 5 minutes of meditation, 5 minutes of journaling, just getting to check in with myself, and then getting showered and getting dressed for the day. That getting showered and getting dressed for the day, like, which I don't do every day, but that really does. That's like the perfect morning routine.
Yeah.
If I'm like showered, dressed, had a good breakfast and did a little walk around the block, I'm so happy, and it boosts my mood. It makes me feel like I'm taking good care of myself. That's kind of like my perfect morning routine, and very attainable.
Exactly. Yes. And just naming it that, like, nothing that you said is super out of the ordinary, like I think a lot of people probably are like, oh yeah, like I do that in the morning, or maybe an element or two that they're like, oh, you're right. Like, I mean, for me, like breakfast, that does like I'll eat a snack at some point in the morning, right?
Yeah.
And so like that's something that when I hear that, it's like, oh, you're right. Like I should probably focus more on making a good breakfast and like setting aside the time for that. But that's not like groundbreaking, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
like something that it's like, what? You're going to make breakfast?
Exactly. But so many of us are used to like, oh yeah, I had coffee for breakfast. I didn't
Exactly.
actually give myself a meal this morning, and that would have stabilized my
Exactly.
blood sugar. Or like, oh, I'm still wearing my sweats from my morning walk. I didn't actually get dressed for the day. You know,
Right.
think little
But
those
just
little
realizing that like a good morning routine, it probably doesn't cost money or a lot of like, I mean, okay, maybe I would have to buy more breakfast foods or something, but like you don't have to go out and buy like a 20-piece skincare set that
no.
takes 30 minutes to put on and all of this. And it doesn't have to be like, and then I go out and use my little foot spa on my back porch, like those are the things, like those are the idealist things that we
Yes.
see. And it can like, don't think that a good morning routine is unattainable or that if your morning routine seems boring, that it's not good. You're like an excellent morning routine is probably boring.
Yes, exactly. And it doesn't require an insane amount of time. Like a lot of things, I find that I think it's going to take so much longer than it does. This morning, because I know I was going to be on the podcast, I put a little curl in my hair and I put some lip gloss on. That took 7 extra minutes. And
Right.
it's not something I do every day, but
Yeah.
it did not take me not even 10 minutes to put a little curl in my hair and put my gloss on, but it's
Exactly.
actually makes me feel a little bit more polished.
Exactly. And also, as you just choose to do things over and over. So, if it's making breakfast or going on a walk or adding a little makeup, like once you start doing that, you'll start to do it a little bit more on autopilot. And I think that that phrase can almost be frustrating for people who are like just starting with some sort of routine. It's like, it doesn't feel like autopilot. And it may not every single day. I've always given the example, like, I have no problem having a habit of having coffee in the morning. Like getting out of bed and making coffee, it's pretty autopilot. But once in a while, I wake up and I'm like, I do not feel like going through the process of making coffee. Like, and I do it all the time. And so I share that just to say that, like, you may have an established routine and have an off day. And it doesn't mean that your routine isn't working. But I think that over time, you'll look back and see, like, oh, like this, it doesn't take as much mental energy. Like,
Yeah.
that's the long and short of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's why I do think those mini challenges,
Hmm.
if you do them for, 10 days in a row or something, it does start to feel, it takes less effort. It's kind of like when the car starts moving and there's momentum starts to take over. And it's like, oh, okay, this is actually starting to feel a little bit more of an automatic part of my day.
Yeah. So, can you share a little more about those daily challenges? Like, what are some of the things you do? And also, you mentioned you do them for like 5 to 10 days. So, what happens after that?
Yeah, I try to pick just one thing. Like right now, I have two right now. So I'll like habit stack. So
Yeah.
my one thing has been the meditation thing because that's something that I feel better when I do it. And then I
Mhm.
kind of fall off the wagon. So I use this app, this Marco Polo app to video chat with friends who live in other
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
And we're always talking about, what are you doing? How's your routine? How's your day going? A lot of us are self-employed. And so a friend was doing a meditation challenge. And so I was like, I'm going to hop on that because I want to get back to that habit. So it'll be something like that. And then I have one other challenge that's not part of my morning routine. I signed up for this program and I wasn't utilizing it. And so I'm challenging myself to ask for help and just like every single day. And I told the person it's like a coaching program. Like I'm going to reach out every single day because I'm holding myself back. So it varies. It's like, usually, what the thing is that you need to challenge yourself about.
Mhm.
And so I'm just like, I'm going to reach out every single day for 10 days. If you have your own business, maybe it's like, I'm going to send an email every day to reach out to someone, or I'm going to post a video. If you're trying to start a YouTube channel, I'm going to post a
Yeah.
video every day, or, just these little challenges seem to help get out of my comfort zone, or,
Mhm.
not stop holding myself back or stop playing small, things like that. So I think it's good for morning routine to just pick one thing and then you can kind of stack on top of that. But sometimes I'll keep going and sometimes I just pick another habit. Sometimes
Yeah.
the meditation will continue. There have been periods of my life where I've meditated consistently for years. And then there have been times where I haven't. So it's
Yeah.
just, I'm not too rigid with myself. I have to just, but that suits me. I have to have some flow in my life.
Right. And with a lot of those things, there's something to be said for having 10 days of doing whatever it is, with reaching out for help in a coaching program. I mean, first of all, whatever you may learn or gain from taking part in that, like, you're not going to forget that.
Yeah.
So maybe you won't continue to reach out or continue to use the program, but you still got benefit for that amount of time.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, just by challenging yourself to do it, you are, I don't know, you're breaking out of your own little container. Just that's the
Yeah.
whole nature of a challenge. It's like, okay, I'm going to break out of this mold that I've been in and I'm going to challenge myself to do this new thing. And it's just the act of challenging yourself. That in and of itself is a benefit, whether you continue to do the thing or not. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Proving to yourself that you can get things done and that you
Yeah,
can follow through on something.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, another thing that we chat a lot about is we talk about everyone's strengths and also the things that are more of a challenge. Because I mean, we've already talked about social media is idealist. And so I think it can be helpful to see that everyone who has really good advice and is an expert in something has another area where they're the ones who need the advice. They're the ones who are struggling in that area. And so, like, what would you say that that is for you, or what area is that for you?
Oh gosh, do I only pick one area? Okay, let's see. Well, if anyone watches my YouTube channel, they know that I definitely struggle with keeping a tidy home. Like I love to organize and I love decluttering and holding space for people to help them declutter and organize. And if I could just set up my home and then have it stay, if it could just stay that way, it'd be great. Or if homes were self cleaning. But I'm not someone who uses something and puts it away. I will come in the door and take off my jacket, throw my keys over here, kick off my shoes. And that's just like one of my, I guess, toxic traits is that I definitely struggle to keep my home tidy. And I'm not above asking for help. Like when I have a really tough week, if I've been sick or just overwhelmed with work, I will call and ask for someone to help come over and clean if I need to hire a cleaning lady. And I have a channel that's based on cleaning. Like I will actually ask for help. That's just, yeah, I think that's so important. I think a lot of us shame ourselves around asking for help for things, and
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, you have a channel around these things. And I think that that can kind of go, like what you shared, can work against the narrative of I'm not an organized person. I think a lot of people look at their space and it's not what they want it to be. It's not tidy. It's not organized. And they think that that might mean that all encompassing, they can't be organized. But like you help people declutter and organize.
Yeah.
And so like the two can coexist.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like for me, I had this moment myself where I realized, after decluttering and going through several passes in my own home, that everything that I have now, I would say in my home for the most part, is something that I love and I use and I need. And just because I've decluttered, it doesn't mean that my home is going to stay in this perfectly tidied way. Like I don't have clutter, but I use everything that I have and I don't put it away. That's my thing. I don't necessarily put it back when I'm done with it, or I don't do cleaning routines and tidying routines. It's just not my strong suit. Like I'll fall on and off that wagon too, where I'll do like, okay, every night I'm going to reset the kitchen, and then maybe I'll do it sometimes and sometimes I don't. And then it gets away from me. And before I know it, there's dishes piled up or whatever. So yeah, that's my
Definitely.
struggle point. But I try to find creative solutions. And sometimes the most creative solution is getting help.
Right. Yes. So what would you say to someone who isn't sure where to look or is just a little apprehensive? I mean, I think asking for help in an area for the first time can be stressful.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. Like I asked my friend, I had someone on my show who I helped them organize their pantry, declutter and organize their pantry. And she had offhandedly mentioned that she had a cleaning lady who was coming every other week. And so I asked her for a referral. I was like, oh, is she taking on any new clients? So a lot of times it's just asking your community or your friends or anyone you feel the most comfortable with for help, or doing a trade or a swap. Like, hey, I really need help with this. I used to have such a problem with opening my mail in my 20s. Like I did not like to open my mail. And I would call my friend Emily and say, hey, can you come over and just hang out while I open my mail? And like, you tell me what you need help with. And she'd be like, I need to clean out my car. Can I like clean out my car and you just watch me do that? Like everyone has something they're struggling with. We need each other. And sometimes just having another person there witnessing you do the thing, you get it done.
Yes. And I think that sometimes being the first person willing to ask for help, like so often, I think we want to be helpful. Like, I think about the people who live in my neighborhood. Like, I would be so happy to help them, bring in their trash can or grab their mail for them while they're gone. And sometimes the way to open that door is actually to be the first one to ask. So, like, I have been the first one to be like, hey, like we're actually out of town right now and our trash can is still at the curb. Would you mind pulling it up to our house for us? And like the response I have gotten, like, I think I asked one of our neighbors if we could like borrow a tool or something. We were doing like a little remodel project and we didn't have something. And like she was so excited. She was like, I'm so glad we're on a tool sharing basis now, So that like you can be the one to open the door. Is what I'm saying.
True. It is so true. I think like we're all so much wanting that connection and that sense of community. And it takes one person just being willing to ask for help. And it opens the door for that like mutual exchange. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So I'm definitely a believer in that and a believer that you have to sometimes let other people serve you. You can't always be the like if everyone always was the person who was serving other people, there would be nobody to help. And I think everyone naturally leans one way or the other. There are the people who lean towards like not wanting to step out of their comfort zone to help someone else. And there are the people who naturally lean towards, I never want to ask for help. I want to do everything myself. And so it kind of comes to like knowing which one you are and like leaning the opposite direction.
Yes, that is such a good point because I am definitely the one who I have a hard time asking for help.
Right.
And so I just assume other people are like that. But you're right. You can be in either camp and it's working that muscle to go outside of your own comfort zone. And I have to force myself. And it's one of the things that I'm doing actively to ask for help. Like if I have a migraine and I need someone to walk Samson, I can ask my neighbor. And that was so hard for me. But the same thing that you said, people are so happy to be asked. They really are. Like people are wanting to help and connect and then check in and see, are you okay? Are you feeling better? Like, can I bring you anything else I can do?
Yes. And I remember a friend, she had taken us to the airport multiple times and then she needed a ride to the airport and she literally said, well, I didn't feel bad asking because like I knew I'd taken you to the airport. So I didn't think you would mind if I asked, like you create that connection and you make them unafraid to ask you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, and we just don't know what other people need. If I knew, it would be so much easier to offer, right? Like if I knew everyone's scheduled and, oh, you're going to the airport and you were going to take an Uber, but I'm free at that time. I could totally save you the $20 that it was going to cost, but I'm not necessarily going to know that in order to offer. And so being in a like coexisting or a give and take relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Well, one more question for you. What is something that's bringing you less stress and more peace right now?
Oh, I am outsourcing my laundry.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a company that it's an app that I use and I just throw all of my laundry into my big like laundry bags and leave it at my front door. They pick it up and within 24 hours they deliver it back all folded, sorted into separate bags. And
really? Is this like local to LA only or are they like nationwide?
It's a nationwide company. I actually learned about it from someone in my comments. It's called Poplin. It's an app that it's like the Uber of laundry. People
really?
Yes, there's the whole thing. Like,
never heard of this. Okay.
I hadn't heard of it until someone mentioned it in my comments. So you have to find a laundry pro. It's very affordable too, but you find a laundry pro and they will pick up your laundry and deliver it to you. And
so like, when you say it's like Uber, do you mean like literally random people can sign up to be a lot? That's awesome.
Yes. People
if your sponsor is laundry and you're listening, do we have a gig for you?
Yeah, exactly. If you have a washer and dryer, then you can have your own.
Awesome. Although I'd be so stressed to wash other people's clothes.
Yes. I don't know how they're doing it. I'm wondering if they're going to laundromats too. Cause I'm like, how are you taking on multiple people I just got mine delivered today. So I had my bedding washed, my towels, everything. And there's certain charges if you do a large thing like a comforter, but that has created less stress for me because I don't have a washer and dryer and it's so nice to just have everything dropped off and folded.
Yeah.
And I just put it away. That has been an amazing life hack.
Yes. It goes to show that there are creative solutions out there for different things. And sometimes it takes a little asking around or hunting or trying out different things to see how they work. But like something like laundry, if that is, I mean, not having a washer dryer and trying to do laundry, like that dynamic is so incredibly stressful. I mean, it's like being a college student for the rest of your life.
Yes, it is. And a lot of us city dwellers are living like that, where you don't realize those luxuries like having a
Yep.
washer dryer. And so having this as a resource, that's what I mean. Like just being resourceful and finding a way to make your life simpler. A lot of people have suggested I get a countertop dishwasher because that's another thing as an apartment, like living in an apartment, I hand wash my dishes. So I've thought about that, but I do feel like there's always, like you said, creative solutions for
Yes.
whatever your issue is or whatever would make your life a little less stressful.
Definitely. Man, we're going to leave a link to that in the show notes for sure.
Yes.
Like I said, I had never even heard of that. So that is awesome. Well, Carla, thank you so much for just sitting down and sharing with us. Where can people go? Where do you hang out the most for people to hear more from you?
I'm mostly on YouTube at the Carla Project. And I also have a website called thecarlaproject.com. So you can head over there and I have a free 23-page decluttering guide that you can download and join my community.
Perfect. Well, we'll leave links to all that in the show notes. Thank you so much for just taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you. I always love talking to you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Get Organized HQ podcast. I hope that you found practical, actionable steps that you can take towards less stress and more peace. Be sure to tune in next week for the next episode.